Today we are dealing with bird migrations, and this is the topic that I like the best because I deal with autumn migrations every day. I study them. I'll tell you a few things about it later on. Migration starts in different times for different bird species, but generally August, September, October is the time of autumn migrations. A migration is a movement, okay? A movement from one place to another. But this is not every movement is a migration, okay? The proper migration is seasonal, so takes time in a proper period of year. It's directional, so it's not like anywhere, but there is a direction that an animal heads to. And usually, migration requires also the return movement. So we have the seasonality, the direction, and the return movement. And now tell me, do only birds migrate? What animals migrate? Give me some examples. Frogs, for example, yes? They migrate from the areas where they spend winter to the areas where they breed. And they are killed on the roads right then. In almost every group of animals you can find migration. But of course the most spectacular and the most common are the bird migrations. There are estimations that each year over 50 billions of birds in the world migrate. Generally, in the northern hemisphere, okay? So here, this is the area of the world when we get the largest proportion of migratory birds. So there is a question, why do they do that anyway? Let's start with the autumn migration. Luckily, all of us live in Europe, so we have no troubles in defining autumn and spring. Because, for example, when I go to South Africa, they have totally reversed seasons. So for them, spring and autumn migration means something totally different. But for us, we all know what is autumn, when is autumn. So tell me, why do birds fly away in autumn from Europe? Because it's cold and because they have problems finding food. We have swallows. What do swallows eat? Flies, yes. Generally insects which they catch in the air. The bird must leave our areas in Europe to survive. Because if they stay, they will die. If the birds leave our countries to survive, they go mostly south, southwest. They spend winter in areas when there is warm, lots of food, generally very nice. Why do they come back in spring? In the areas where the birds travel, there are a lot of birds that stay there all year round, yes, in the warmer areas. As long as the birds care only for themselves, there is food for everyone. But what happens in spring? The birds are going to breed, yeah? And they will need lots of food to feed their nestlings, yeah? So generally, it's starting to get too little food for the birds in the south. But here, in the north, in spring, it gets warmer. There are lots of food, lots of insects, mosquitoes, flies, everything that we hate, but there is plenty of it. The day is long, so the bird has greater chance to produce new young when they come back and do it here, not in the south. Because then they avoid competition with the local birds in the south, yes? So we have these two main forces. Remember, these are the two main forces that makes the nature move, to survive and to reproduce. Ravens, woodpeckers, and sparrows, okay? These are the birds that are able to find food even in winter, yes? Waders, swallows, and warblers. Generally, birds that feed mostly on other small animals which are not available in winter, they have to migrate. This nice colorful map shows main migratory routes of birds in Europe. You can see that there is a great crossroads of every possible direction. Yeah? Some birds migrate from very far north to Mediterranean, some as far south as southern Africa, and some migrate even to India. Okay? And you can see that the birds, they stayed during the Ice Age in several areas in the south, and then they colonized the Europe from the south. And now the ways that they migrate reflect the ways that colonized Europe. Yes? So this is also one of the reasons why that image is so complicated. Look at this bird. Willow warbler, that size, 10 grams. In yellow, it's a breeding range. So it breeds from Western Europe to Eastern Asia. Spends winter here. From here to there, 12,000 kilometers. And the bird covers this distance twice. China is closer. India is closer. Why don't they fly there? It's warm, lots of food. The answer is what I told you before, because its ancestors came from Africa. That way. And this is why the willow warblers, they don't know. They don't have to fly so far away. They just do what their ancestors, their fathers, grandfathers, great-grandfathers. This is the history of the species. We here in Europe tend to look on migrations from our point of view. It's our birds that have to leave their homeland, fly abroad far, far away to some foreign lands, and come back to their home to give birth to youngs. If you look at the birds as a species, it's totally opposite. Their homeland is Africa. This wing is like more rounded, yes? Like that. And this is long and pointed, yeah? Why do migratory birds have more pointed wings? What does it give them? Aerodynamics. And the more the wing is pointed, the less drag it generates. Yeah? Imagine a plane. The faster a plane flies, the more pointed wings it has. Yes? So if a bird has to flap its wings for a long time on migration, it's better for it to have wings that will generate as little drag as possible. Yeah? So that is why the migrants have generally long, pointed wings. A flock of storks in a thermal like that. When they go to the top, they just glide down to the next thermal, okay? So a stork can fly to Africa without even moving its wings. It just flies like that. That fellow here takes all the drag of the air on itself. And it creates something like a stream of air in which the other birds can fly, and it helps them to reduce the energy needed in even 20%. So not only does it give the bird lots of energy, but also it's light, lighter than other possible fuels.
The problem to solve for us is how to encourage children to observe birds' migration. Effective amazement. It is one of the most important points of the Brunner theory. Effective amazement. We have to find something what is very interesting for children. For example, interesting action. Maybe it will be observation. Maybe it will be experiment. Maybe it will be game, movie, photos. And we have to be very creative. We have to discover what is interesting at the moment for children and what we have to do to encourage them to, for example, observe birds, to talk about birds' migration. Task is for you. How to encourage children from preschools using effective amazement. Because bird migration is very interesting, but what we have to do to interest this group of children?